Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for utilizing my MLB home run sheets to make your choices daily. This tutorial is long overdue, so I apologize for how long it's taken for me to get it out, but we are here. So I'm going to walk through on how to utilize these sheets so that you can make your best educated guess and create your own parlays. I will continue to release parlays, but like I post about, if you're following me on threads, knowing who's in a good position is one thing, but actually putting together multiple players in one parlay is a lot harder, and it's a lot of luck that goes into that aspect of it. So that's why I always love the sheets and recommend for people to utilize them to create their own picks. So let's walk through every aspect of the sheets. And if you guys have any questions afterwards, feel free to message me on threads, DM me on Instagram. I'm not on my Instagram DMs that often, so I apologize if it takes forever to respond. My bad. But I'll try to monitor them more now that I have this tutorial video up just to answer questions. All right. So we're starting with column A, the first column over here to your left. This is the slate. And what a slate is basically all of the games that are occurring in one day. So today is Monday, June 23rd. And our slate, there's a 9-game slate today, with the first game being Texas and Baltimore, and it starts at 6:35 Eastern Standard Time. If you bet on basketball, you'll know that the times posted online are actually 10 minutes earlier than official game time. With baseball, it is not. So if it says it's starting at 6:35, it is absolutely starting at 6:35. You can still put in home run bets, but obviously it's just a little easier to do everything before game starts. I still bet live too, so I try to send out some live plays that I like. But yeah, just wanted to put some clarification on the start time. Okay. So then the third column is going to be our projected home run hitters for the day. And I have created the list based on a lot of factors. I'll come back to that. The next column will be pitchers. So this is every starting pitcher. Let's clarify, every starting pitcher for each team. So if you watch baseball, you will see the majority of the time a starting pitcher does not pitch the whole game. They usually pitch about 6 innings. If they absolutely suck, they can definitely get pulled before that. Or if they're just getting back from an injury like Shohei Ohtani, he's only pitching 1 inning right now. So definitely keep that in mind as you're placing bets. Like, kind of be aware of who the pitchers are if you can. If it's someone really new, they may not pitch all the innings. If it's someone who sucks, they may not pitch all the innings. So if you're trying to bet on strikeouts, for instance, that's something to keep in mind. Beside each pitcher name, you will see parentheses LH or parentheses RH, and that stands for left-handed pitcher or right-handed pitcher. You will see the same in the home run hitters column. It'll be right-handed or left-handed, and on some of them, you'll see SH. So let me find one. Okay, look at the New York Mets. Lindor, it says SH. That means he's a switch hand batter. He can bat on either the left or the right hand. That definitely gives him an advantage because when the pitcher is up, he doesn't know whether Lindor is going to bat on the right or the left. I don't know exactly when the batters make the decision on that. I'm not that deep into it yet. But that is what SH stands for. You'll never find, or at least I haven't seen since I've been doing these charts, that a pitcher is switch hand. I typically only see it for batters like Elly De La Cruz for Cincinnati as well. The next column that we're going to review is pitcher ERA. So this is a metric that doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with home runs, but it does tell you whether the pitcher is a good pitcher or a bad pitcher in a sense. If you scroll all the way down to the sheets, you will see that I put definitions down here too. So please utilize these definitions at the bottom to give you more clarity. But ERA stands for earned runs allowed. So it's how many runs a pitcher has allowed. It's a calculation. The higher the number, the worse the pitcher is when it comes to the amount of runs that they are allowing at one time. So for an example, New York Mets pitcher today is Blackburn. He's right-handed, and he has allowed 6.92 runs in the games that he's pitched this year, which is not great. So that is someone we may want to target. The next column is a pitcher rating, and this rating has a lot of factors. It's not something I actually come up with. I use Ballpark Pal. It's a resource that a lot of people use today. That's something that you guys could also subscribe to. I try to include all the relevant information that you'll need right here in this sheet, though. But it is a pitcher rating. This is not 100%. I mean, they're basically saying that Blackburn is a D-rated pitcher to the Atlanta batters, and that's going to be based off of a lot of different metrics. I can't really think of what they are off the top of my head, but it'll be like pitch mix. It'll be, his historical performance versus these batters, like, etc. So you can definitely look at that. I like to eyeball the grades and then look at all the other factors before making a decision on which batters I'll select for home runs. The next column is most home runs given up to which hitting side. So for instance, Texas, Corbin is a left-handed pitcher. He's our starting pitcher today, and he gives up the most home runs to the right-hand hitters, or right-hand batters, I'm sorry. Alongside the right hand or left hand, you'll see numbers in parentheses. What this means is he's given up 8 home runs to right-handed batters this year and given up 3 to left-handed batters. So in this instance, you're going to want to lean towards what right-handed batters are available today versus left-hand, but he has given up some to left, so that could definitely be an option. There's further discrepancies from some, like for instance, Lodolo, who's a pitcher for Cincinnati today. He's given up 10 home runs to right-handed, 1 to left. So I personally would not go for a left-handed batter today. I have listed here Rice and Grisham, who are left-handed batters. They're in good spots, or they have good metrics on the pitch types that may be thrown to them versus Lodolo. However, Lodolo leans so hard towards right-handed batters that I would want to safely select a right-handed batter if I was going to pick somebody from this game, from the Yankees and Cincinnati game. So that is pretty much this column. Another thing, I like to add in green shading for large discrepancies. So if it's anything like they give up 5 or more home runs to one side, maybe even 4 home runs more on one side versus another, then I will typically highlight this green so that it stands out. You guys can easily recognize if a pitcher has an extra weak spot. In some cases, like the Seattle-Minnesota game, this pitcher for Minnesota is even 7-7. I highlighted this one because he's given up 14 home runs this year, which is a lot. And he's giving it up to both sides. So that's something you want to be mindful about. And then also, if I was looking at this game, like, okay, he's given up 14 home runs to either side. So you can have either a right-handed, left-handed, or switch hitter. And then also he has a D rating versus his lineup. So Cal Raleigh has been on it lately. Like, I think he has over 30 home runs already, which is almost as many as he had for the entire season last year. So he's killing it. He's in a great spot today, which is why he is bold and italicized. And I'll come back to that too, on why I do that. Okay. So that pretty much covers this column. Also, like I said, you can scroll down to the bottom. I have a definition here. I typically just focus on the dark green now. I used to do light green shading as well, but I don't feel like it's as relevant. And then if there's no shading, that means like, not great of a difference. Right-handed, he's given up 1 home run this year. Not that big of a deal. Okay. Moving on to the next column, our projected home run weather. So this is information collected on like what's the likelihood of a home run being hit. So actually, before we break down this column, let's move over here to these 4 columns. If you look at the top, the first one is projected home runs. The second is projected 2 or 3 bases. So whether the players are getting doubles or triples in one at-bat. Then we have projected 1 base, so single hits. And then finally projected runs. So, hey, are they going to go over or under on total runs today? I like to look at this column right here to make that decision. And then when you look at everything in totality, then that's how we come up with the overall grade for projected home run weather. So, for instance, this first Texas and Baltimore game, you see green across the board, but especially when looking at specifically home runs, 7% increase. So that is great, which is why it has a great rating. And I will, majority of the time, add in what the exact weather will be. So in this game, it's 96 degrees Fahrenheit, 0% precipitation. So there is no rain in the forecast, and the wind is blowing up at 3 miles per hour. When you look at how the wind is blowing, that is extremely important. You want to make sure, in the most ideal conditions, that the wind is blowing either right, left, up, and it's blowing hard. So I don't know if you guys caught up with the games this past weekend, but the Chicago Cubs game had so many home runs. And if you look at the weather this past weekend, it was not only hot, which adds the value to a home run being hit. The hotter it is, the better, the conditions are for a home run to be hit. But they also had 20 miles per hour wind, which is insane. And the Chicago Cubs ballpark is very small. So that's why you saw home runs just flying in that game, or in all the games that happened this past weekend. So when I'm looking to make a selection from the list over here with our home run hitters, I'm going to look and see, what is the weather like? Is the wind blowing? Do I have a good chance of, the wind picking up a ball and carrying it even further? Things like that. Luckily today, it's a pretty great slate outside of the last game. If you see Washington and San Diego, although they have great pitching positions, the weather is not as great. It's going to be 62 degrees, so definitely a lot colder than some of the earlier games on the East Coast. The projection is -9% of home runs. So that's something to keep in mind. One thing I will say, though, is when you're looking at making a decision across all of these different factors and metrics, nothing is absolute. Just because there's bad weather does not mean there will absolutely not be home runs. Or just because there's great weather and there's great pitchers, that doesn't necessarily mean there'll be great home runs either. I mean, that's why we're doing this. It's gambling. Nothing's guaranteed. So you just have to make a decision on what, you feel in your gut is the right one based on the data that's available to you. And then some games here, like fair, I will put fair because anything between 0 and -4%, I consider fair. This particular game, it's 90 degrees, 8% precipitation, 7 miles per hour upward wind. Those are pretty good conditions. So I will probably look to take someone in this game. For instance, Suzuki, right-handed pitcher. Laborator, I don't know if that's how you say his name, but he's a left-handed pitcher. His ERA is 4.08. He's rated D+ pitcher against this lineup, and he's given up 7 home runs to the right, none to the left this year. So although I have Tucker and Crow Armstrong listed, like they're in good spots, or they are good against his pitch mix, I will probably lean towards the 2 right-handed pitchers that I'm recommending for this particular game. Okay, cool. Next, we have the stadium. So I decided to include stadium information here because stadiums really matter. If you have been watching or betting on baseball at all, you know that all of the stadiums are completely different. The length of a field is different, whether the right side or left side is shallow, whether the center is shallow, like they're all configured differently. So you can have someone hit a ball 400 feet in one ballpark, and it's a home run. And in another ballpark, it's a double or a triple. It just wasn't hit far enough. So that is extremely important when you're thinking about who to take, because if it's a home run that's not, if it's a ballpark that's not home run friendly, I would probably lean away towards like betting a lot of money on a player. Unless everything else seemed great, I'll probably just lean a different way. One ballpark, for instance, the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, Ohio, is the smallest outfield in MLB. Hot days equals home run paradise. Today, it's going to be 89 degrees there. It's a 30% projection for home runs. We have an F-rated pitcher for the Yankees pitching to Cincinnati, and then we have a right-handed pitcher for Cincinnati pitching to the Yankees, who have given up 10 home runs to right-handed batters. So this seems like an exceptional game to bet on today, which I will be. I'll be sending those plays out shortly. But that is another way that I look at how I'm going to make my decisions. There's some other field that's a little bit harder, like Citi Field in New York for the Mets. It's an odd-shaped outfield with deep corners, shallow gaps, and deep center field. One of the MLB's worst for batter contact. And it being worse for batter contact could be a lot of different things. Maybe it's how the sun sets in that particular ballpark, or maybe it's the direction in which the ball typically flies. There's a lot of factors on why the stadiums are kind of described as they are, but this is the best data available to us right now. So keep in mind as you're going through the stadium insights. And then finally, before I get back to the hitters, I also include projected home runs down here. So for today, the 23rd, there are 22.9 projected home runs. We will see what actually happens, but I will say for the most part, the projections are pretty close. Whether they're a little bit over or under, I haven't found a huge discrepancy. So I like getting this type of guidance to kind of know, okay, is this a day I should bet on home runs? Lately, it's been kind of in the high 30s for the projections, but that's also with a full slate. So 15 game slate is usually the max number of games that'll happen on a day. Today, we have a 9 game slate, which is great because that was less work that I had to do today. But yeah, just keep that projection in mind. Okay. And then finally, let's get back to the home run hitters. So as you can see, there will be some home run hitters, batters, however you want to describe them, that their names are bolded and italicized, or they're regular, or they're just bold. And I like to do that because it gives emphasis on the players that I think are in better spots than others. However, with that being said, anyone that I include on this list, they're all in great positions to hit home runs. So, Alonso may be someone who hits a home run today, even though he's not bold and italicized, but I didn't lean towards him because he's a right-handed batter and he's going against a B+ rated pitcher, which is good. And this pitcher primarily gives up home runs to left-handed batters. So although Alonso looks like he's in a great spot, I got to keep in mind that Schwellenbach primarily gives up the most home runs to lefties. The better options, in my opinion, would be Soto, Batty, and even Lindor, who's a switch hitter, would be some great options for this game. If we look at Atlanta, similar situation. The right-handed hitters are bold and italicized that I like the most. Verdugo had a good results versus Blackburn's pitch mix, so I did include him. Keep in mind he's a lefty, though. And then Murphy's a right-handed batter, but he just wasn't as good of an option as Riley, Acuna, and Ozuna. So that's why he's not bold and italicized. So you will see that trend across all of the games. I will consistently do that just to kind of show you my personal leans, but that's not an end all be all. So you can still take this data and, select your batters based on how you truly feel, what your gut feeling is, and then go forward with making the decision there. When I select home run hitters, batters, my main thing that I look at is their slug rate, their ISO, their weighted on-base average, how their historical performance has been versus the pitcher that they're going against, their performance versus the bullpen. So earlier I mentioned starting pitchers don't typically play a full game. There's pitchers in their what they call a bullpen, players that'll come in and pitch right after the starting pitcher. And that can change. It could be one person from the bullpen that pitches the rest of the game. Usually it's 2 or 3. But all of the data that I have here that I'm showing you guys, all of these names are selected based on their performance versus the starting pitcher. Now, they could possibly be in the same good spot if the bullpen pitcher that comes up after the starting pitcher has similar pitch styles, is also a righty or a lefty. Any of it is still possible. But keep in mind that all of my recommendations are based on performance versus the starting pitcher. So yeah, I think that primarily covers everything. If anything is confusing, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to continue to work on these sheets and post them daily, and hopefully have these lists get shorter and shorter so that you guys can have a shorter list of names to choose from. I want to get as streamlined as possible, and the more data we get as the season goes on, the better it will be for me to make those selections. But ultimately, I have people reaching out to me daily saying they've utilized the sheets and have won off of them. Again, you can use this for more than home runs. Use this for hits. Use this to determine what games you think will go over and under on total runs, who you think can win. You can look at this too and decide, oh, I want to take this pitcher for strikeouts today. Like Wu is rated at A minus versus Minnesota. That can be guidance to like, hey, maybe I should look up, what his strikeout metrics are and take him for strikeouts today. So utilize the sheets to your benefit. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out to me, and I can answer any questions you guys have. But yeah, thank you so much for utilizing the data, that I put out there every single day. Excited about how, we can all win together and cook the books, okay? We need to have a profitable summer, and I think the sheets will definitely help us get there. Bye.